Good morning, everyone. Just for the record, my name is Roderick Sawyer, and I serve you as Alderman of the 6th Ward. And welcome to the 6th Ward at the great AIS Center. I want to thank all the workers here today. We really appreciate what you do here. We know we're gearing up for another very exciting construction season, and I want us to make sure that we're all ready for it. We're braced and ready to go. I know we have a lot of exciting things to do this spring and summer, and with no further ado, it's my honor to bring forward none other than the Mayor of the City of Chicago to discuss this in detail, Mayor Lori Lightfoot.
Thank you, Chairman Sawyer. In a few words, this is the We Get Stuff Done press conference. We're here to talk about a lot of the work that we're going to be doing in infrastructure funded by our capital plan that City Council passed 2 budget cycles ago, and talk to you about what we plan to be doing to bring more infrastructure improvements to residential neighborhoods all across our city. So spring is right around the corner, as we know, which means it's time to kick off construction, as well as launch year 2 of the Chicago Works Jobs and Infrastructure Plan. And you heard from Chairman Sawyer. We expect, I think Chairman Brookins is going to be joining us, as well as CDOT Commissioner Biagi, Asphalt Foreman Tim Gatherite, and Cement Finishers Foreman Tony Perry. And many of the representatives from CDOT, if you pan the cameras, you're going to see lots of CDOT folks. These are the crews who are out there in the neighborhoods getting the work done. And we are grateful and appreciative of all of your hard work. So let me tell you a little bit about who's here. Representatives from the Cement Masons Local 502, Operating Engineers 150, Laborers Local 1001, and Teamsters Local 700 joining us today. Every single day, across every single one of our 77 neighborhoods, residents and visitors alike rely upon our infrastructure system to save their lives. Not only does infrastructure provide them with the ability to get around the city by foot, by vehicle, by bus and rail, but it also provides them with opportunities to land good-paying construction jobs. And let me emphasize that again, really good-paying construction jobs, and gain access to better and more modern city facilities. Making investments in infrastructure is a vital part of who we are as a city and helps revitalize our neighborhoods and improve the quality of life for our residents. That's why last April, we launched the first year of the Chicago Works Capital Plan, our city's first multi-year, multi-billion-dollar infrastructure initiative in decades. Now, don't get me wrong, we've done infrastructure before, but we never had a multi-year plan so that folks on the ground could do the planning, stretch it over multiple years, and there was a level of predictability about where we were going to be going year in and year out. This Chicago Works Capital Plan gives us the ability to do that. And taking you back in November of 2020, in the midst of a historic pandemic, City Council boldly approved the first installment of this 5-year, $3.7 billion plan to invest in sustainable transportation infrastructure and city facilities in all of our 77 neighborhoods. We're here today in year 2, which combined with the work of year 1 represents a $1.4 billion effort to spur long-term local economic development and job creation through the power of infrastructure in the way that is equitable, provides safety and mobility, and lowers the economic and environmental burden of transportation on our residents. As you will see on all the Chicago Works signs across our city, a tagline for this initiative is, quote, investing in communities through infrastructure. And that's exactly what we're doing. So I'm proud to proclaim that this is an idea we started on our own during a time when we didn't have any support from the federal government from infrastructure. Now we do, but we didn't wait, and we're continuing to do our work, and then we'll use the federal dollars to really magnify the work that was already been done because of the result of the budget and City Council's confidence in our ability, and really the workers' ability, to take this capital plan and make sure that it was equitably distributed throughout Chicago over a 5-year plan. What we did know is that our residents needed jobs and infrastructure right away, and we couldn't wait. So now, a year later, we have both federal and state support and are that much closer to making our infrastructure more connected, more modern, and more resilient. The first installment of the Chicago Works Capital Plan will allow CDOT to repair and replace traditional infrastructure like roads, bridges, sidewalks, ADA-compliant accessible crosswalks, ramps, streetlights, traffic signals, and that much more. Furthermore, it also includes more than $100 million for the creation of a dozen new streetscape projects in Invest Southwest neighborhoods and corridors. These projects will include public art, tree planting, and pedestrian safety improvements. Why those things? Because that's what residents told us that they wanted, and they wanted us to prioritize and fund. Starting now, residents will be able to see this work taking place all over the city. Concrete and gutter work is already underway, even though today we're probably taking the day off because of the rain. And next month, street resurfacing projects, such as those on Grand Avenue from Chicago to Ogden and Milwaukee Avenue from Belmont to Logan Square, will start in earnest. For far too long, our residents have been asking for their streets and sidewalks to be paved. And I shared a story with the crew before we started the press conference today. Everywhere, people see when we do the work that they expect of government, paving their streets, making their sidewalks safe, making sure their alleys are up to code. This is what makes people realize, yes, the hard work and sacrifice, the tax dollars that we pay, we're getting this back in the form of needed and essential infrastructure improvements. So this first installment of Chicago Works will continue to put thousands of our residents back to work with good paying, sustainable jobs, which represents a mixture of seasonal city employees and city contractors. And we're already getting ahead of this effort as we brought back seasonal workers in March to complete concrete work in advance of street asphalt resurfacing, as well as make the ADA, that's the Americans with Disabilities Act, upgrades on city streets. And more people get back to work and travel around our city. It's absolutely vital that they have access to improved infrastructure. And I'll just say to folks in the neighborhoods, and I'm going to say this to my neighbors in Logan Square, be patient. When they're out there and the crews are doing their work, yes, it's disruptive, but in the long run, it's for the betterment of your street, your neighborhood, and our city. So I want to thank Commissioner Biagi and her team, and welcome Chairman Brookins. I want to thank the many contractors and construction workers joining us today for your hard work in making the Chicago Works Capital Plan a reality in neighborhoods across our city. I said at the outset, this is the we get stuff done. I could use probably a little more colorful word, but the point is that we are a city that works. We take great pride in the work that we do, particularly when it means we're really improving the quality of life in people's neighborhoods and responding to the needs that our residents have over and over again told us. We want better streets, we want better sidewalks, better alleys, and we're going to do that and continue to build on that work through the Chicago Works Plan. So now I'd like to bring to the podium our great CDOT Commissioner, Gia Biagi.
Well, I don't even know what to say because you got a sense of the entirety of what we're here to talk about. Thank you, Mayor, for coming here today and for all your support on the Chicago Works program and so much of these investments that are changing people's lives in their neighborhoods every day. Thank you, Alderman, for being here today and all your support throughout the year. Assets and Information Services, who own this building, operate it, they fix our fleet, they fix our equipment. These machines you see here are not possible without AIS, so thank you so much for hosting us here today. Given the rain, it's good to be indoors for a minute. So as you heard, Chicago Works, it dedicates funding for the repair and replacement of infrastructure soup to nuts. You know, you think about a street, it's from that doorknob on one side all the way to the doorknob on the other side of the street and everything in between. It's the roads and the bridges and the sidewalks and the curbs and everything in between. It's traffic signals, it's street lights. And so this funding, and as you heard from the mayor, where we went it alone, with the mayor's leadership and city council support, we were able to start this program running. But long before the feds were able to get done what they finally did get done. So we are ready. We have shovels in the ground, and in fact, we have been able to move up our construction cycles, our hiring, all the pieces that make it happen. We've been able to move that stuff up and get shovels in the ground sooner than ever. So you heard a little bit about also how the work that we do lifts neighborhoods. It also is a huge shot in the arm for economic development. The mayor mentioned over $100 million in streetscapes. That's all that stuff we just described on miles of streets across the city, particularly in neighborhoods on the south and west sides as a part of our Invest South and West initiative. So that is a huge impact. And a big part of that, as you heard, public art, trees, all the trappings in between. So I said we're getting a jump start on the construction season, and we are. We brought back seasonal staff, as you heard, a month earlier than we normally do. And I have to say that our unions have been great partners in all of this. We can't do it without you, and particularly around coordinating training opportunities for laborers and other staff. And that training has expanded, actually, this year to create more opportunities. Let's get that pipeline as wide as possible, get as many people into it and into jobs. Working here at CDOT and also doing other work through contracted work that we do. So we thank our unions for their partnership and being here today. And another solid thanks to City Council. And your partnership, not only to get the Chicago Works bill passed, but we've been working real hard on getting the timelines for what our menu dollars. So those are some of the more discretionary funds that we work with City Council to make sure we're hitting every single block in a ward. And we've really pushed those timelines up. We spent 2 years doing it, and so we are out of the box earlier than ever. And that means everything, right? In a Chicago where, you know, sometimes it feels like we have 2 seasons, but one of them is construction. And so we got to get going, and we're doing the work all winter long. So, you know, I think the mayor mentioned it as well. You're going to see big numbers come up. This map, take a look at it afterwards. Look at the breadth of the city that we are touching this year, and that's not even 23 and 24. We're going to keep going. That doesn't even capture what we did this past year. So it's miles of streets, miles of alleys, miles of all of the things that you heard mentioned in terms of what we touch in every neighborhood. So again, as Mayor mentioned, thank you for your patience in advance. You're going to see a lot of shovels in the ground. Please take a breath. If you see folks working in the street, give them a minute, give them some space, you know, because that's somebody's family member working in the street. That's somebody's friend. That's might be your neighbor who's doing work on the street. So please slow down, give them a break. We got a lot of work to get done. So that's enough from me. I'm excited though to introduce 2 of our key CDOT employees here. Everybody's key, but we have Tim Gatherite and Tony Perry, who've both been with the city for a good long time. I think Tim has been with the city since 2003, and he's an asphalt foreman since 2010. And Tony has been with the city since 1994. Oh man, called you out. Has been foreman, of cement finishers since 2009. And so these are 2 folks who can speak from experience, and they know all the facets of what we do, all about asphalt and concrete work. So I'm delighted to have you both here today who can talk a little bit about how it really gets done. So come on up, Tim. All right.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Timothy Gatherite, and I want to first of all say thank you to Mayor Lightfoot and also to my Commissioner Biagi. Thanks for that help. So I've been with the city now for right at 19 plus years, and it's a great pleasure to serve here in CDOT. My responsibilities throughout the summer months is to handle the big grinder here, this big massive machine that you see to my left and yours right. That's what we do, and that machine is responsible for grinding, milling streets, extracting the streets, preparing it for the pavers. And our day-to-day operation consists of, whether it be in the wintertime, from 3 to 4 men up until 20 men in the summertime when we have private contractors working along with us. What I considered when we asked about our responsibilities and what are our goals for this year. Last year, we boasted 100+ miles of interior streets, 60-some miles of arterial streets. I hope to meet and exceed that expectation this year, working alongside of all of my fine co-workers here with CDOT. Thank you. And at this time, we're going to have Tony Perry.
Good afternoon. I'd like to thank the mayor and the commission for this opportunity to speak. My name is Tony Perry. I've been a cement finisher foreman for 28 years, and it's been great. So what we do is we have the collecting group, the collector streets, which allows 15 employees, and that combines the groups together where they can have a framing crew and a pouring crew, so we can get the product out a lot quicker, pouring the ADAs, the alleys, and whatever else that needs to be done, the backfilling, the planting of the seeds, and moving forward with the collectors group, there's an opportunity that was great to bring the employees back earlier and to get the work completed more. So with that being said, I would like to turn it back over to the mayor and let her speak. Thank you.
You know, it's a great thing to hear from the folks who are actually doing the work. You see them out there, you see them in their safety vests, but as you can tell, these gentlemen and ladies have been with the city for a long period of time, take a considerable amount of pride in the work that they do, and we provide very good middle-class lives for the workers in the city. So again, I'm grateful, and I say on behalf of residents all over the city, thank you all very much for the hard work. And now, happy to take your questions.
Thanks a lot, Mayor. We'll start with Aaron from the Hyde Park Herald with On Topic.
Okay.
Hello.
Hi there.
I wondered if I could get some idea about how this is going to be funded, if it's a combination of like ARPA or state funding, local bonding, if the bipartisan infrastructure bill is going to go into this at all. I'm just trying to see how the city is going to be paying for
Well, the
all
work
this.
that we're doing in the Capital Works Plan really started with our dollars. We issued bonds to be able to get this off and running. And as I said at the outset, the thing that I'm most pleased about is we've done capital improvement work. We do it all the time. It's the menu work and other things. But what this 5-year capital plan gives us the ability to do, is to actually plan and be strategic about how and when we're making the various investments. And we don't have to get things done in one season and then hope for the best that we'll get additional monies. It gives us the ability to look long term. And some of this infrastructure work, and the commissioner can speak to this more directly, it's not one construction cycle. It's a multi-year process of planning, the design work, making sure that we're going into neighborhoods, engaging with them. So it's a lengthy process in some instances that requires us to be able to do this over multiple years, and that's exactly what this capital plan does. Now, if we're lucky enough to get some of the infrastructure dollars, which I expect that we will, that'll be layering over the work that we're doing. And it's coming in different buckets, but some of that is going to be these what they're calling the mega projects. So, for example, the Red Line extension, I think, will fall into one of those buckets. We're talking about some regional partnerships that we can be involved with. So there's a lot of other things that I think we'll be able to use the federal infrastructure dollars for, but certainly the nuts and bolts work of infrastructure that'll add to the work that we're already doing. Gee, I don't know if you want to add to that or not. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I think what you're hearing today is, you know, how we went when nobody else was ready, right? And everyone was dreaming about a federal infrastructure bill, and instead we got local bond funds to do it. And so we were already in that state of readiness, and now we're able to go after these longer-term project funding sources. If you're looking at, for example, in the federal infrastructure bill, you have things like the RAISE grant that we'll be looking at. You have the normal formula funding. So Illinois is slated to get about $17 billion in federal funds. Some of that will go to transit. I think $1.4 billion goes to bridges. That's for the whole state, but we plan to get our fair share of that. And then looking at some of the competitive sources. So there are a lot of new funding sources at the federal level that we're able to go after now. So it's a very exciting time. And like I said, we did our homework. We're ready to go. And we're planning for the future every day.
And if I could just add on to that, I mean, one of the things that was very clear in our conversations with the federal partners, and particularly former Mayor Mitch Landrieu, who's the infrastructure czar. What they're looking for in a lot of these federal dollars is not starting with a blank piece of paper, but has the local entity got skin in the game already? Have you already started the work? Have you done the local engagement? Are you hiring from the neighborhoods? What's the equity and inclusion components of the work? So we are, I think, going to be very well situated to make sure that we're able to take care of those dollars, because we didn't wait. We started the work ourselves, and we're going to have a good story to tell when we start competing for some of those grants.
Sorry to ask an aggressively local question right now, but it looks like a heck of a lot of work is planned for Hyde Park on that map. Can you possibly tell me about that? And then maybe expand, it looks like maybe Addison, I don't know the north side very well. One of those big, long streets up there has a big red line on it.
You got to get out more. The north side's a good place, too.
I don't know anything about the north side. I don't need to go up there at all.
Well,
so.
sure, I'd be happy to address some of it. And in fact, we're happy to talk as a sidebar if you have a question about individual projects.
But about some of the big projects.
Yeah, I mean, in the Hyde Park area, you're looking at the Jackson Park mobility improvements, and that is $175 million worth of roadways, streetscapes, pedestrian underpasses, 5 pedestrian underpasses through the park. It's paving, it's lighting, it's all of the things. And frankly, it's an example of how, we're meeting the opportunity of supporting work at the Obama Presidential Center, but expanding it. You see, that's a big footprint. It's not just about what we're doing with Obama, but it is about the neighborhood. So that actually extends down Stony Island. It extends west as we move toward the expressway. So that's a massive footprint. A lot of these arterial you have both residential and arterial resurfacing projects. Arterials are your biggest streets, right? Those take, as the mayor said, a long time to plan. And so what we've been able to do is bring to fruition these giant segments, right? So you're saying, okay, Addison, that looks really huge. Yes, it is miles long. And so we're doing them also in segments, and so they'll be coming on board in pieces, doing a big section this year, following through the next section next year. So I'm happy to get into any of them. They all have a few different components, but at the end of the day, it's a street that is easier to drive. It's got pedestrian safety improvements that make it easier to cross that street. It's got bike infrastructure improvements, and then all the trappings of signage and lighting and all the rest.
One kind of on topic, one off topic,
Sure.
but really pertinent for the mayor. In terms of transit, are there any plans to include the CTA and the Fair Transit South Cook pilot program? Synergizing schedules across systems and enabling cross-system transfers would be a boon for many Southsiders.
Sounds like a question from Metro. We are in discussions to figure out ways in which we can improve access to transportation. And there's a lot of different ideas that are floating, but we haven't come to one specific plan yet. I've been very clear about this. CTA is vital to our city. And anything that we do has to be a value add and not subtracting either from ridership or revenues from the CTA. So we want to make sure that CTA is vital and strong for years and years to come. So any plan that is brought to the table has to be one that is a value add, and I'm going to be viewing it first and foremost through the lens of what does this mean for the CTA.
Last question.
Do you have any comment on the district court judge's dismissal yesterday of the Protect Our Parks lawsuit attempting to block and halt construction of the Obama Presidential Center in Jackson Park, and the possibility that litigation over this issue might be reaching an end?
Well, look, obviously, I'm very pleased that the judge dismissed the state law claims, but there's a piece of the litigation that continues. Briefing will happen here in the coming weeks, so I don't want to say too much more. But, as you know, we're moving forward. Shovels are in the ground. You can see the framing of some of the structures that are already happening, and we're excited about the progress that's being made.
Aaron, Daily Line.
Thank you.
Hi, Mayor.
Hi there.
Off topic as well. We've just reported that you're going to announce Deborah Witzberg tomorrow as the next Inspector General. Why is she the choice?
Well, I'm not going to get ahead of any announcement that may or may not be happening tomorrow.
Okay. Question for, and sorry, if I could have 3, these 2 are from a colleague. And
Sure,
then,
sure.
Next, I guess I'll stay on with you. There hasn't been any budget information posted on the new special committee on the casino. And I was just wondering, how will you ensure that work being done in that committee doesn't take away from work being done, in the existing committees?
Well, I don't anticipate that that's going to be an issue. All of the the work, the goal of the kind of super committee, if you will, was to streamline aldermen's ability to access information, answer questions. So we weren't dividing up this very important project into 4 or 5 different committees. So there's plenty of resources available for that. A lot of the heavy lifting is going to be done in concert with our team that's been analyzing the various casino proposals all along. But this gives, I think, a much more efficient way for aldermen to be able to ask questions and then get answers to those questions so that they feel and are in a better position to evaluate the 3 proposals, which I expect to be narrowed down to 1.
And a question for Commissioner Biagi. Last week when she was talking about high gas prices, the mayor said we want to encourage people to take the CTA, but the practical reality is we're a car city and people have to drive. Do you agree that Chicago is a quote-unquote car city?
We're a city of all kinds of modes of movement, whether it's cars or bikes or walking, riding scooters. You'll be hearing soon more about scooters and can ask me questions next week. But, you know, we're a city that has a lot of ways to move around. And the fact is that we have a lot of folks that live in areas of the city that aren't well served enough by transit, and that's something that we're working on. It's our job to make sure that folks that are experiencing a hard time getting from where they live to work have other options. And so there's a reality that, yes, folks are driving vehicles around. These crews are driving vehicles around the city to get the work done. But it's our job to also match that with investments in CTA, as you heard, in bike infrastructure and all the other things. That's how we get a whole city. We get it all together and give people a lot of options and affordable options for moving around.
Thanks, Commissioner. Thanks, Mayor. That's a wrap. Have a great day.
Thank you, everyone.